Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today we are going to talk about my 5 favorite teams for fantasy football this year. These are teams that are just loaded with offensive talent. They're going to score a ton of points, and they're going to score a ton of fantasy points for your team. So you want to get as many players as you can from these 5 teams. So here we go. Let's check it out.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today we are going to talk about my 5 favorite teams for fantasy. Okay, these are the teams that you want to get as many of these players on your fantasy team as you can, because I think all 5 of these teams are just going to be very explosive this year, score a ton of points, and just bring you nothing but fantasy goodness for the whole season. And that's what we want, right? So, but before we get to that, man, I got to talk about something that about the odds makers, because the odds makers right now have the Baltimore Ravens favored in every single game that they are scheduled to play this season. Every single one. On down the line, 16-0 is what they're predicting from this team. Now, I've got to admit, Baltimore is a very good team, but I think there is a lot of regression risk on this team. It starts with the quarterback. And Lamar Jackson had an amazing season last year, all right? No other way to put it. But the big thing that really struck me is that Lamar Jackson got 36 touchdowns on the lowest passing volume in the NFL. Literally no one passed less than Lamar Jackson did. He somehow ended up with 36 touchdowns. That's just amazing touchdown efficiency. And I just don't see how he can maintain that level of touchdown efficiency with that low of volume. So I think there's regression there. I think we're going to see him fall into the 20s for his touchdowns. And then you also have a situation where, the dude's an amazing runner, right? Broke all the records for rushing for a quarterback last year. Again, he had an amazing season. But do you think the coaching staff kind of wants to draw back on the amount that he is rushing? Because I got to say, man, you are opening yourself up to a huge injury risk by continuing to allow him to carry the ball as much as he did last season. And so, again, that's why they brought in Dobbins to fill an already very explosive and very effective backfield. You now have 4 players in that backfield, which are very good at carrying the ball. And I think they're going to be telling him, you know what? You need to hand this off to these guys more instead of just taking it yourself. And he's very elusive, but there were so many times last season watching those games where he nearly got his head taken off. I mean, it was like so close, so razor close. You're just like, you gasp, right? When you're like, oh! And then he like somehow escapes it and he makes a huge run, and it's an amazing play. But one of these times, man, he's going to take the full impact. It's an injury risk. And so if Lamar Jackson goes down, this offense is going to degrade significantly, just because no one can do what Lamar Jackson does. But regardless, all I have to say to the odds makers in Las Vegas, can I please take the under on your projections of them winning, being favored in every single game for this season? So that's all I had to say about that. What do you guys think about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens? Do you think they can go 16-0 this season? Let me know in the comments down below. So let's get on to my top 5 teams for fantasy. Now, this is not the top 5 teams in the NFL. I don't know how many of these teams are going to make the playoffs. I think they all have a good shot, but I think 2 are outside shots of it even happening. We'll see. They do have an expanded, playoff teams. Now they got 7 teams in each league going to the playoffs. So it's a little easier to get in. And I think all these guys could definitely be in the mix, but only a couple of them I think are actually kind of locked in that they're probably going to do it. But anyway, all I got to say is when it comes to fantasy, you want to draft players from good teams. Drafting a player from a good team is always going to be better for you than drafting a player from a bad team. Okay, they're just going to be more effective. They're going to score more touchdowns. It's going to be more offense. So, like I said, with these guys, with these teams, I love them. I want to get a share from each of these teams on my fantasy team because I think they are all going to do outstanding this year. And I'm going to start with my number 5. So then my number 5 best team for fantasy this season is the LA Rams. And, Sean McVay, he's an offensive genius. And one of the things that I really like about this team this year is the passing offense. I think it's really going to have to step up because Todd Gurley's not there anymore. And yes, you have Cam Akers and you have Darrell Henderson. I think both of them are good choices for fantasy. But really, the receiving elements of this team, I think, are going to be the strongest part of it, including Darrell Henderson. I like Darrell Henderson's receiving prowess. He's actually made it on my podcast a couple weeks ago talking about, late round running backs that offer flex value. He's like an 11th round guy. He's a great option, but let's start at the top, man. I mean, the 2 top receivers on this team, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Robert Woods. I love them both. The fact that Brandon Cooks is no longer on the team, fantastic for these guys. I can see that leading to more volume for each of these guys. And really, if I had to choose, I would choose Woods over Kupp. Woods was more consistent. Woods gets more volume. Plus, he gets rushing yards. Kupp doesn't really do that. Kupp is better at the touchdowns, right? But he's a little bit streaky, and his consistency isn't the best. But as far as I'm concerned, get either of them, you're good. I mean, they're good players to have. The tight ends also very good. I like Higbee, and if you're looking for like a last round flyer that might actually do something, I got to tell you, man, Gerald Everett is a player that Sean McVay has singled out, saying they've got to get him the ball more. He's a playmaker. And he is going super late in drafts. Like, he's in the 200s. He's a total afterthought. Nobody's taking him. And so, if you just have like a 15-round draft, you don't need to worry about drafting him. He'll be on the waiver wire. But if you've got like a 20-round draft or something like that, as a last pick, man, I'd take Everett. I'd take a chance on him. I think something could happen there, especially if you're in PPR. So that's just something to throw out there. So let's move on to my number 14. My number 14, man, again, very excited about this offense. And I really think this is going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. That team is Tampa Bay. I mean, Bruce Arians, who's an excellent coach, he teams up with Tom Brady, who admittedly is not the Tom Brady of 5 to 10 seasons ago, okay? Tom Brady is aging. He's not as good as he was, but I totally see a situation here where they have built a team around Tom Brady to maximize his effectiveness and, again, maximize the effectiveness of the offense. In the same way that they did it with Peyton Manning in Denver, I see this as Tampa Bay this year. And Tom Brady has promised to lead this team to the Super Bowl. I mean, Brady's not backing down, man. He's still playing for rings. And I love that. I think the team is going to be all bought in on that. You've got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Now, of those two, I love Godwin. I do not like Evans. But I think they're both going to be fine. If you take Evans, I would not take him. Godwin's the guy I want to own as far as receivers. But also you got Rob Gronkowski on this team, who's great as a late round tight end. I mean, he is typically going in about the 9th or 10th round. And I got to say, man, I'm in on Gronkowski. I think he'll get enough volume to be a TE1 this year. And I think he's great. And another guy who I really, really like, who is going in later rounds, he's going in like the 7th or 8th round, Ronald Jones. I like him way more than Keyshawn Vaughn in this backfield just because he's established. He really did better last year. He really improved his game from his horrific rookie season. So that was good to see. But the way this offense has upgraded this year, I got to say he's going to be more effective. How are they going to stack the box against Ronald Jones when you've got Godwin and Evans and Gronkowski and probably O.J. Howard out there as well? I mean, it's going to be an incredible offense to watch. I'm very excited to see what this team does. But again, get yourself a share of this team on your fantasy team. Try to get 2. I mean, go for 2. Tom Brady's super easy to get. I'm not really looking his way, but where he's going in draft position, I mean, he's not a bad choice. There's other players that I like better for upside, but certainly Tom Brady's going to be a good option this year on this offense. So let's move on to the next one, man. So my next team, for fantasy, for my top 5 fantasy teams, my next team is another one I think is just going to be an offensive dynamo, the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, again, it's going to be an air raid offense. It's going to be a fast-moving offense. They're going to score a lot. As to how that translates into wins, I'm not sure because the defense is pretty bad, but this offense is stacked. And it starts with Kyler Murray, the quarterback, who certainly is an excellent candidate to break out this year. I think he's going to be very, very good. One of my personal favorites, Kenyon Drake. I think he's good enough to be taken in the first round if you have a late first round pick and all the elite options are gone. Like once Derrick Henry goes off the board, I think Kenyon Drake is a viable first round pick if you are, in the 9th to 12th pick of your draft. Of course, you could always wait till early in the second round to take him, but I would not hesitate taking him earlier if I need to get him on my team. DeAndre Hopkins, everybody's concerned about Hopkins. Is he going to be able to do as good in Arizona? And while I don't think he's going to hit that 30% target share that he enjoyed in Houston, Hopkins is quarterback proof. He is going to perform and produce. I'm not really looking at DeAndre Hopkins this year, but I got no problems with anybody taking him just because I think this offense is going to be so amazing to watch and so much fun to watch as they score a ton of points. And I think Hopkins is going to be good. You've also got, as far as late round guys to look at, I think Christian Kirk is a great choice as the number 2 wide receiver on this team. Certainly he didn't do great last year playing as the number 1, but I think that he certainly has an easier job now that DeAndre Hopkins is on the field, so that helps him. Chase Edmonds is another late round guy that I like. I think he's going to have a role in this offense, more than just a handcuff to Kenyon Drake. I think he's going to have more of a role than that, so that's good. And then, of course, you got Larry Fitzgerald, who I'm not real interested in ever drafting players that are as old as he is. He is such he's a Hall of Famer. And I think he will do very well this year, but for fantasy, I don't think he's going to do anything for fantasy. But I mean, the weapons on this team are just top notch, and it's going to be exciting to watch this team play this year. So again, get yourself a share of the Arizona Cardinals when you are drafting this year. So let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is the Dallas Cowboys. And I think this is the year Dallas Cowboys finally break out of that 8-8 funk they had under their crappy coach. Now they've got a new coach, but the same offensive coordinator. That offense was amazing for fantasy football last year. Starts with Dak Prescott, who, although I very much like Dak Prescott, I do not think he's worth his current draft position. I'm never really an early quarterback guy. I would pass on him. Last year, he was so fantastic because he was like the 15th or 16th quarterback being selected, and he put up those enormous numbers. This year, he's like the 3rd quarterback being selected, so he doesn't really offer as much value, but the pieces around him, I think, are very good. Of course, you got Zeke, who is my overall number 1 favorite player this year in all formats. You've also got, you got Amari Cooper, who is a great daily fantasy play. I would not take him for season-long fantasy. Gallup, I think, is a great choice. Lamb, he's a rookie, and I'm not sure what sort of volume he's going to get. But the one guy who I really like on the Cowboys this year, just based on his draft position, is Blake Jarwin, who is the tight end, who basically is the lead tight end on this team. Jason Witten no longer on the team, and last year Dak targeted the tight ends over 120 times. That's awesome value. He's available in like the 11th or 12th round. Again, super late. I do have him valued as a tight end 1, a low-end tight end 1, but the upside is there, man. If he does get like 120 targets, he's going to be a top 5. So I'm all in on Blake Jarwin. And so, again, get yourself a share of the Dallas Cowboys this season. And I think the number 1 team, no one's going to be surprised at my number 1 team, man. Come on. It's the Chiefs, right? Kansas City. Just, best quarterback in the NFL, best offense in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, NFL MVP, Super Bowl champion. The dude's been in the league 3 years. He is so good. When are we going to be sick of how good Patrick Mahomes is? That's what I'm coming to. I still thrill watching him every time I see him on the TV. But when are we going to be like, Mahomes? The same way we talk about Brady, right? It's the same thing, But for right now, I'm just enjoying it. I love Mahomes. Again, he's the number 1 quarterback being taken. Not sure I would take him as early as you have to take him. You got to basically take him in the second round if you want him. Maybe you'll get him in the early third, just because I'm not sure he's going to be worth the draft pick that early. But if I'm in a small league, yes, Mahomes is going to be like my top choice to get. A 10-team or smaller league, positional dominance strategy, Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback you want this year, for sure. But, come on. You got Tyreek Hill. You got Travis Kelce. These guys are awesome. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield now. He's going very early. He's going, late second round, early third round pick. But come on. He's going to be really, really good. The one guy that I'm trying to get in just about every league that I'm in is Mecole Hardman. Just because Sammy Watkins just can't stay healthy, can't stay in the game, and can't produce at a consistent level. He's a very good wide receiver, but if you look at fantasy last year, he only had like 3 good games. So I'm not really interested in Watkins at all, but Hardman is the guy I want to target. Again, you can get him late. He's the fastest player in the NFL. And you saw what he did last year on his super low volume. He averaged like 40 yards per play on these downhill passes, got 6 touchdowns on nothing volume. It was very low volume. So I see him taking a much larger role this year. It'll be interesting to see if they keep him on special teams. That's one thing I'm really looking for, is if they take him off special teams, that means they're going to give him a bigger role on the offense. So that's something to watch for during camp. But, again, get someone from this team on your fantasy team this year. So those are my 5 favorites. Let's recoup. We got the Rams, we've got Tampa Bay, got Arizona, Dallas, and Kansas City. Those are the 5 teams. Try to get a player from each of these teams on your fantasy team this year. You'll be great. You'll be in great shape. So thank you very much for watching. Again, I'm super excited. Still want to see what happens when preseason and training camps open and all that happens. It's at the end of this month, so it's coming right up. So I'm really, really, really want to see something happening here that gives us something to look forward to for September for a season starting on time. So let's all send out the good vibes to make sure that happens, all right? So thank you very much for watching. And if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. And like I said, I'll be back again on Saturday doing another podcast. I haven't decided on the topic yet, but I will be working on that. And, like I said, have fun. If you haven't started mock drafting yet, definitely get going on that. You want to see where players are going. And if you want some help with your mock drafts, I invite you to go to my website, fantasyfootballmaverick.com. That's where you can get access to my app, my draft tool app. It's called My Perfect Fantasy Draft. It's a web-based app available exclusively through my website. You can access it on any web-connected device. And what it does is it allows you to create a fully customized draft list in just a matter of minutes. And then you break it down in draft mode for each round of your draft based on the size of your league and your draft position. So it's a fantastic tool for helping people really strategize what players they can get at each pick in their draft. And it really raises your game. It's got lots of great information in it. And I have what I call the VORK score: value, outlook, reliability, consistency. That's how I rate players. and you just want players that score lots of work points. That's what I call it, and that's what you get in draft mode. So please go check it out. You can try out a limited version of the app for free, and if you like it, you can get a 1-year subscription for only $19.95. You can use it on as many drafts as you're in. Let me tell you what, it has totally changed my game since I created this app. Before I created this app, I had won 0 championships in like 15 years. It was really bad. It wasn't 15. I guess it was more like 13 years. No championships. I made it to the championship game a couple times, always lost. Since I created this app, I've won 7 championships in 4 seasons. So it works. It totally raises your game. So again, please go and check it out. And if you have any questions or you want to talk about some of these players, please message me below and leave a message, and I'll be happy to talk with you about it. Always good to hear from you guys. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. And everybody, have yourself a great rest of your week. See you later.